5 Famous Gangster Hideouts. Number 1. Capone's Miami Mansion. When I first mentioned 1920s gangsters, you probably assumed I'd say one of the most well-known, notorious gangsters ever to live. Yes, I'm talking about the real Scarface, otherwise known as Al Capone. Yes, Al may not have done anything particularly worse than the other gangsters mentioned thus far. See, what stood out about Capone was his ability to strike fear into the hearts of his contemporaries, many of whom were the most ruthless gangsters operating at the time. Though Capone certainly had several hideouts, including a spot in Canada, his mansion in Miami is one of the more well-known. Capone reportedly paid around $40,000 for the mansion, which sports wide halls, a cabana for pool parties, and a guest house. The house's value is now somewhere around $17 million, though it could go for even more considering the historic interest of the place. After Capone completed his sentence in Alcatraz, he returned to the house. It was there that he died from a heart attack in 1947. He was almost 50. Number 2. The Flamingo Hotel. Beverly Hills is the place for the rich and famous, and the infamous. It was the home where Bugsy Siegel, not to be confused with Bugs Moran, was eventually violently murdered while visiting the home of his wife and children. However, prior to the bootlegger and gambler's violent death, he enjoyed plenty of time gambling away his life in casinos in Vegas. Bugsy was the owner of his own casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, the Flamingo Hotel. There, he participated in the lifestyle of a gangster. Money, infidelity, and unlawful business ventures were just part of an average day in the life of Siegel, who is portrayed fairly accurately according to what I've read and seen of the 1991 mafia film Bugsy. Siegel was associated with another famous criminal, Lucky Luciano. He eventually became one of his hitmen, which probably led to revenge back in Beverly Hills. The Flamingo Hotel is still up and running and is the oldest hotel on the Vegas Strip still in operation. Number 3. The Bradford Mobacker Home. In case you were beginning to think gang violence was only for men, Mobacker is here to show you're wrong. And she gives a whole new meaning to the phrase, Mama's boy. Mobacker and her son posed as a vacationing couple and purchased a home in Ocklawaha, Florida, while she was on the run. This notorious, violent robber rightfully earned herself a spot on the FBI's most wanted list until she was eventually found and gunned down in the longest gun battle in FBI history. By the way, if you're in the market for a new family home, hers is apparently for sale. However, you just might want to hope her ghost isn't carrying a gun. Number 4. Scofields Flower Shop. If you hope to buy some flowers for your girlfriend or spouse on Valentine's Day or your anniversary, you cannot get any at Scofields these days. Perhaps to compensate for something? This wasn't exactly the go-to flower shop for your average customer. Still, it was the place to be if you were having a funeral for a fellow gang member. It became the shop supplying the funeral needs of some of the most infamous citizens in Chicago. It may not surprise you to learn Mr. Bugs Moran was involved in this business venture as well. After Big Bill's death, Moran became the new boss of the North Street Gang. Unfortunately, the Depression caused the business to struggle quite a bit, and it eventually went out of business sometime in the 70s. Number 5. Blackstone Hotel. The Blackstone Hotel has a long history as a popular getaway for celebrities, politicians, and, yes, gangsters. The hotel opened in the 1920s. Famously, it was the place where the Republican candidate, Warren G. Harding, was first selected to represent the Elephant Party. Harding wasn't exactly a mobster, but his record is a little questionable considering all the scandals he turned out to be involved in. It may or may not be true that Harding knowingly hired more than one operative of the Ohio gang during his presidency, a true show of the massive amount of power these gangsters held in society at the time. The hotel also housed a barbershop where Al Capone went when he needed a haircut. After all, he had to look sharp before he went and cut off somebody's fingers for being cheap with him.